We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams.
What's up, ReelChat? How you guys all doing? Happy Independence Day.
Independence Day, guys.
Yeah.
It's a fucking great day. I love today.
100%. It's great. It's like one of my favorite holidays, dude. It's like Halloween and this. You know, fireworks, drinks, usually a pool or a bikini, right? You know?
Yeah.
Not me, but, you know.
That's the Halloween part of it. That's the scary part of it.
That's the scary part.
Hey, tell me. So for people that don't know, that we game too. You know, we're not just world-renowned reviews, talkies, all these actors, writers. We also game, and we play.
We call ourselves critics, right?
We consider ourselves critics because we're also in the game. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can't be a critic if you aren't in the game, and we kind of are. So, yeah. But also we game, and we did okay just a minute ago. I mean,
Absolutely.
Let's say that
2 wins back to back is not that bad, right?
No, not on Independence Day. I picked, not that we're gonna linger on it, but one of the guns I picked up was the new MP5 with the.
No way! Did you?
Yeah. Yeah,
dude, no, seriously. I picked up the new XM4 that shoots the fireworks too. That was the last kill I got with the fireworks stuff.
Oh, dope! So then the team that we must have picked off must have had that bundle. That's awesome. Yeah. Fuck yeah!
See, that's it. That's America. You find stuff that works, then we take it. Oh, I'm sorry. That sounds so bad. Oh man, that sounds bad. Dude, how you been?
Good. I'm actually really excited about today's topic. I have kind of been inundated in entertainment the past, I would say, maybe week. I got
really
advance passes. Yeah, I got advance passes to see Netflix Fear Street, the R.L. Stein trilogy of films that's going to be released. Well, it was released on Friday.
Yeah, I was going to say that just came out. I knew about that. Yeah.
It did. I think I managed to catch it on Tuesday. I was able to watch it on Tuesday, and I also saw. I forget the movie. I think it was called Violent something or other. And I'm so embarrassed I can't remember it because it was incredible. I saw these 2 horror movies back to back, and Fear Street is getting all this love and all this press, and it's just I didn't love it. I mean, spoiler alert, I didn't love it. A lot of money went into it. Yeah, the R.L. Stein brand is a heavy brand. I loved the books. I preferred Christopher Pike, which ironically enough, he's also getting some films made off of his books very soon.
Okay.
But I didn't love it. But this other film, and I'm gonna grab the trailer and I'm gonna put it in the chat because it's such a good film. It's good horror comedy. It's different. It's clever and you know me, I watch a lot of horror, but I think even you would enjoy this one. I know you're not a big horror guy. But this
I wouldn't say that. I mean, I enjoy, let's put it this way. I like good horror where it's not gratuitous for the sake of being gratuitous. I guess
okay.
Is what I can say.
No, that makes sense. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I know because a lot of horror itself can just be over the top stupid, but people love that. That's, I can talk about the horror genre for a while, and that's part of it. That's one niche of that genre where people just really want to see a splatterfest, and then there's like Eli Roth's torture porn, and then there's films like The Lodge or films like Relic especially, which takes dementia and turns it and gives it.
I haven't seen Relic yet.
Physicality.
That's one I want to see. Relic and Heritage. Something about lineage.
Oh, Hereditary.
That's it, Hereditary. Thank you. Yes, I was getting there.
Hereditary is incredible. Yeah, that's really unsettling in a slow burn type of way. But
Rachel's off for the 4th of July, so she's probably writing these down in the other room.
Oh, nice. That's what I'm gonna. So I'm gonna put some trailers in the chat, and I'm gonna give these before we get into what we're talking about today. I'm gonna give these my stamp of approval. This is Vicious, VICIOUS, fun.
Rachel, this is Chris Carter's stamp of approval. Not the ReelChat, but Chris's. I haven't yet seen it, so I can't give you my review yet.
That's the disclaimer. We'll have to. Well, when Rachel comes on, we'll have to compare notes.
I want to see the new Purge.
Me too.
I want to see the new Purge. I love the Purge movies. The first one was great. Second one was amazing. The third one, so not so much. It's getting to the point where it's like Saw, where the genre is starting to just become nothing but the violence. There's the first one was very thriller. It takes place in a house. That's it. just like Saw.
Yeah.
Saw took place in a freaking abandoned warehouse bathroom area, and that was pretty much it. It had other stuff, but like primarily it was there, you know. So I'm excited. I need to see it. Hey, there she is. All right, man. So Chris,
Yes.
what are we talking about today?
We are talking about The Tomorrow War, starring Chris Pratt, that just came out. I believe it was the 2nd, on Amazon Prime. It's free for everybody to see, which it's crazy because this new model of releasing films. It's really what 2020 did was kind of it made industries and titans, Warner Brothers, Universal, Disney, kind of look at their distribution model and see how can we make more money and really kind of stretch this out. And so,
Yeah, they wanted
this
that. They really had to evolve quickly, didn't they?
that's a wonderful point to that. Yeah, and Tomorrow War, I would say, I think it's kind of a miss. They probably should have released it in theaters, but that didn't.
I did a little research because we had a different topic we were going to talk about, but we'll get to that at the end of the podcast today.
We will.
But I did a little research for you because I know you're a numbers guy and you like looking into this stuff.
I love.
Did you know that this was made by Paramount for a theater release, but because of COVID, they sold it to Amazon for $200 million?
Oh, I didn't know that. 200 million, huh? I think that's fair. Do you think? All right, well, we'll talk about it in depth in a second. But do you think this movie would have made $200 million in the domestic box office?
Domestic? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't know.
think so either.
I mean, okay, let's put it this way: if we hadn't had COVID, sure, I think it would have done really well, because one, Chris Pratt was great in this movie. I really liked it. It had Simmons. Really like him a lot too. He's great. I cannot remember the buddy of his that was kind of funny.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember the name of I can't remember the name of the actor.
The actor Sam Richardson.
Yes, he's hilarious. I love him. He gets my funny bone real good, and I thought he was great in this movie too. And this is the first movie that Chris Pratt was the executive producer on, as well.
Right.
He actually they were thinking of a name like those people that, when movies come out, they come out under like a fake name, like a nickname.
Yeah.
Tomorrow War was originally the fake name. And you're like, you know what? We're just gonna run with it. And
really?
This was like the first movie that there was not a fake name for. The actual fake name turned out to be the real name of the movie.
Interesting. It's funny you say that. That's a great piece of info. I was sitting there thinking as I was watching this, could there be a better name? Because it's not a great name for sure. I mean, it works, right?
Yeah, it works.
It works, but it's not like when you say the Tomorrow War, it doesn't, it just doesn't rouse you like something better would. But again, I can't think of anything to fill that. But
right. Well, here's another thing. Another movie that we both like and enjoy. That's actually a really interesting comparison. I'm probably going to compare a lot to this movie as well too, because I was on an Alien movie watching binge this last week. Like me and Rachel, we watched Aliens. We watched Alien 2, Prometheus, Covenant, and stuff like that too. But then another one that actually kind of mirrors this just a little bit is, funnily enough, went through a couple title changes as well too. Edge of Tomorrow. Or as the new one, what was it? Live, Die, Repeat.
Live, Die, Repeat.
Yeah, and which also has to do with time, has to do with aliens, and has to do with a protagonist that's not prepared.
Yeah, and that's a great sci-fi film too, by the way. If people haven't seen it, so I think the title as of right now it's Live, Die, Repeat. That's what I think it's called.
I still have it. It literally just says Edge of Tomorrow.
That's how I remember it.
That's how I remember it. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, both those movies do time, like changing time, probably the best out of all these movies I've seen in the science fiction. And there's a ton of them out there, Avengers and all that other stuff. But Live, Die, Repeat does it where it's like, it's comedic, but they take themselves seriously. Right. They set the world, they set the rules. And I think that the Tomorrow War did a really good job of that too. What do you think?
I agree. I absolutely agree. When we talk about sci-fi films, you have to build your world out and you have to make it believable. And within the first 5 minutes of this movie, they've kind of started that. They have the introduction to the soccer game, and then they have that the time jumpers come in and they say it, and then we jump a year into it. I absolutely agree. And it's funny you say Live Die Repeat, because I was thinking about that film watching this one.
Were you?
Yeah, because I was thinking that they did that really well, and it's an original IP, right? They didn't jack anything from some. I mean, relatively speaking, it was completely new. There wasn't, Live Die Repeat was a new premise in the sense of what they had to do and how Tom Cruise got that thing to reset the day.
Yeah.
Where this one, it was completely different. And I loved it. The story for me, and again, I'm a story guy. And so in the first 5 minutes of our story, we find out that if you've seen the trailers, which maybe I'll drop the trailer here in the chat, then you know what it's about. Soldiers from, I think, 30 years in the future jump back in time and they start recruiting people because an alien invasion has happened and they're slowly being wiped out, which the premise kind of, okay, it sounds a little funny, ridiculous, but the way they sell it, right? The believability, they take it 100% serious. There is no fucking around like how there was in Endgame when Paul Rudd has that scene saying, well, Back to the Future is all bullshit. Like, there was no confusion, right? Like, this is our story, and because they sold it so seriously, I 100% believed it. How did you feel about, like, because time travel is a funny thing, right?
It is.
It's kind of hit and miss.
It really is, and it's hard for me to suspend my disbelief a little. I'm already thinking like, okay, there's aliens. I'm suspending it already for that part as well too. By the way, these aliens freaked me the hell out. They were great. The animation was amazing. The fear was amazing as well too. The problem that I started having, but then I thought about it, I'm like, actually, you know what? I'm going to give this a really good rating, because when I was thinking about it, I'm like, none of these people have training. There's like different age groups and stuff like that too. There's like a guy that's 50, and then Rachel is actually the one that figured it out. She's like, these people have died. That's why they're able to go back, so they don't create a paradox. I'm like, that's totally right.
That because people don't know what you're. So assume that somebody hasn't seen the movie. So there's a moment when Chris Pratt and Sam Richardson are talking, and that comes out. So kind of give us the layout of what you're alluding to, how Rachel kind of figured it out, because if nobody's seen it, they don't know the scene that you're talking about. So kind of.
Well, it's a scene where they like see this guy, and he's like really tough as nails kind of guy, but he's gone back 3 times. So it's like his 3rd tour going into the future, right? And they're trying to figure it out, and they're looking around. They see this guy that's 55. He's older. They have Chris, who's actually an ex-Green Beret, so he was able. I was able to believe that he was able to fight and handle a weapon like he did. But half these people have never held a gun, but they're still shooting and stuff like that too. But it was really cool to see the different fight or flight mechanic that the actors decided to do in the film as it went. You had some of them that freaked out and didn't know what they were doing. They freaked out with the guns. Some of them were just like shooting at them because they were scared and stuff like that too. So you're able to see like the breakdown of all these different characters when they first met the aliens, And so that was really cool. And I liked the fact, I love alien movies where it doesn't show them impacting Earth and then going. Because I'm gonna channel David Harris here for a little bit for us, who hates alien movies like that. He's like, there's no way that they would be able to take this out because of the U.S.'s military might in being able to handle a situation like that. Like our response units and stuff like that too, and our military would be able to fight that. And spoiler, if you guys haven't seen that, there is no impact from the aliens landing because they thaw out from an ice place, so that makes sense why they're already there in such huge numbers and are able to take over these areas. Yeah, I'm gonna
go back a little bit because I do want to talk about that, but
Please.
I think it's important to kind of the strategy on the people to kind of elaborate on what you said about how Rachel kind of figured it out. So because in the trailer we see people are now being taken, they're being drafted, right, air quotes, and it even says in the movie that because of the numbers are so low that you're going to get a random draft, you get a notification, you show up to MEPS, which is a military processing center, which ironically enough is funny. My brother was a recruiter for a while, so I know I've been through MEPS before.
Oh shit, okay.
And so when Chris Pratt is going through it, you get it. But what they're doing and I love how they say their tour is 7 days. I'm like, 7 days? That's crazy. And then they start ratcheting up the tension because they say only 30% of people come back. His wife, Betty Gilpin, who's wonderful in Glow. She's fantastic in Glow, and she's fantastic in this too. She's a grief counselor or like a PTSD counselor, kind of in the vein of the VA, and so she knows all about that. And we get what people go through when they come back through that lens. So when they layer the storytelling, they do a really good job about not exposition, not feeling like exposition. We're getting it from different spots. And so again, what Rachel was talking about is, so when Sam Richardson and Chris Pratt are talking, they're noticing that all the draftees, once they've been drafted and they're in like the holding area, are all older people. They're all post 40.
Right.
And so then they have this moment, and I didn't figure it out, so kudos to Rachel, that they figure out that because they're all 40, post 40 or 40 or more, it's because the war happens 30 years out. So these people are already dead.
Yeah.
So everybody that's in this room is dead already. So they don't have that paradox,
Exactly.
which can kind of plague and be a thorn in the reality of time traveling movies. So again, they fixed that real quick.
And I love the writers from
brilliant.
that. Yeah, it's brilliant writing, right? Because they were able to just put that little. They didn't even touch on it really that big. They didn't have to explain it. They just led the audience there. The audience was able to figure it out if they paid attention, or they were smart enough to figure it out what they were doing. Which kudos to my wife for figuring that out, because I was sitting next to her.
Yeah, that was
wow,
pretty good.
that makes sense. That makes sense. And it's not just because they died, just because they're dead. These people have died from natural causes in that timeline, you know? And I think there's something called it's called the grandfather paradox, where you go in the future and you have to come back to your timeline or something like that too. It's like linear as opposed to branching off, like what Marvel does with branching off different universes and stuff like that. So it's like a linear timeline. It's like it's a different way of looking at it, I guess, is the way best way to put it.
And it's effective, right?
Yeah.
Because you know.
Now the one thing that I didn't really, not necessarily appreciate or have a problem with, but they led up certain things, like the kid with the volcano and stuff like that, in exposition, but then they tied it in later. It wasn't cheap writing, and I don't think it was done. How do I say this? It wasn't. I don't know. I can't explain it. It's not childish. It wasn't written childishly, because they put all these things in there, and you're like, why are they bring it? Oh, they bring it back later on, you know. Like the dad, and then he's got a plane, and he's been out of Chris Pratt's life this whole time, but wants to meet his granddaughter. I thought that was a very touching scene, in my opinion, with his dad and stuff like that too. And I don't know, man. I felt really good about this movie.
Yeah, and I don't. It's funny. We should go back and also say that you and I had talked about this. I think it was Thursday night with David Harris in a group chat, saying that I had read that it has been getting shit on review wise, and I couldn't figure out and I didn't. You know what? It does affect you a little when you hear people saying, "Oh, it's not good. It's not good." You kind of go in thinking, "Well, this probably isn't going to be good," but it was so good that I remember Jessica was editing and she stopped and she came and watched it because of how attentive. Or how compelling the story was, and right now it's sitting at 52 and on the tomato meter, but the audience is 80. The audience loves it. It's sitting at an 81% audience rating wise. So,
I never pay attention to Rotten Tomatoes. I hate that critic website.
That metric.
Everybody bases it off that. Screw that. Look at what the fans that see it and see what they're saying about it, instead of looking at some company that's saying don't watch this because of this. Because in my opinion, Rotten Tomatoes kind of tanked the whole DC Zack Snyder universe, because they just bombed the shit out of every single movie they came out with, and they never talk about anything good. They just say everything bad about it. So Rotten Tomatoes, in my opinion, is rotten. They don't really. I never see them say anything good about it unless they agree with the movie.
I think what they did when they add the audience score though is because it's critic based, sure, the tomato meter, but the audience score is now being looked upon as, okay, well, do people if critics, because critics feel like one thing and the audience feels like something else, right? Because not every. I've watched films that critics love and I fucking hate. It's just not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what they're looking for is, so when I went in to watch it, I went in with like a very neutral, slanting towards not liking it vibe, but for it to do what it did, and it just did so much well. I liked the relationship between Chris Pratt and J.K. Simmons' father.
Yeah.
Betty Gilpin again is wonderful. She's so good and glowing. She's great in this. And then Yvonne Strahovski, I hope I'm not butchering her name, but as we get into the film, we find out that
The Colonel?
The Colonel.
Okay.
But the Colonel Forrester, but the actress playing her is Yvonne Strahovski, and she kills it in The Handmaid's Tale. She's incredible in that. She was in Chuck for a while. But she's fantastic in this. And as we get into the future, we find out that that's actually Chris Pratt's daughter, who their relationship is really good.
Dude, the child actress was amazing.
Yeah.
Like when she finds out about her dad says it, and you just see her face go from happiness to shock and then just sadness like that. That was amazing acting at such a young age. I appreciated the heck out of that scene.
Yeah. Yeah, they really built their relationship well. And what did you think of the set piece? Okay, so let's go back. All right, so what did you think about the aliens? Because we've seen a ton of aliens, and in creating an original alien creature is difficult.
It's very.
Right? You have to the composition, the mobility, the defensive aspects of it. What did you think of these creatures in the Tomorrow War?
I thought they were probably one of my favorite alien designs, to be completely honest. Because one, yes, they're what's it called, anthropoid, or something like that. I think that's the name of like how like a species looks like and acts. So they had like what, two hind legs, two like Tyrannosaurus arms in the middle, like with little claws and stuff. And then the big ones on the side. But not only that, then they have like these tails, two of them on the side, like tube-like tails itself, that I'm assuming were meant for balance, because every time they ran, they were behind them, and then when they stopped, they came forward to help balance. But they also had projectiles because they shot the spikes. That's where they get the name White Spikes, which is where the name comes from that they gave these alien creatures. But the armor was interesting. The fact that they acted very, when they ran, they acted very like wolf-like, mammal-like, in my opinion. But when they were getting like defensive, they were very much like an insect. Like they huddled down and used their armor, or their chitin armor as like protection. And I thought that was interesting. They weren't just mad beasts where they didn't care about the bullets. They knew what they were going up against, and they were smart enough to defend themselves and then attack when they needed to.
Yeah, I think that the level of intelligence, and you see it when they're communicating during the first set piece when the Humvees come in and they're supposed to extract Chris Pratt's team, and you can see one of them kind of giving orders, and them looks like they're they end up flanking the humans, which it can be like how the fuck would they know that? But the way they shoot it is this one creature is kind of directing these other creatures, and it had a little bit of a Battle Los Angeles vibe, which I'm a huge fan of. Militarized, military going against an alien / horror presence. I think that's great. The director said that he really wanted to have, the aliens look like they had been cooked for a while or being frozen, and we'll get to that, like you alluded to later,
right?
Because of their skin, and then their teeth were all jagged and stained because they don't clean their teeth, right? They're just like taking everything in. But yeah, I was a huge fan of the design, and I've seen a shit ton of alien sci-fi movies. Like if there's one out there, I will watch, even if I know I'm gonna hate it. And the design they came up with, and it's not just the physiological breakdown of it, but also the mental capacity, however slight it is, was really cool in these creatures. I think they did such a good job, and
100%.
I
think what was the first alien species in a movie or TV show that you remember seeing as a kid? What was the first thing?
Would be the xenomorph. The one
you saw the xenomorph? See,
yeah.
The first thing I remember seeing was, coincidentally enough, what was it called? Starship Troopers.
Oh yeah.
Those those things scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. I don't know how old I was, but when I saw that alien like melt the human and then the spike go through the back of that girl and she throws the grenade, that scene will always stick with me for a long time, because when I was a kid, I saw that and scared the hell out of me.
Yeah,
it terrified the hell.
I can't think of it.
Yeah, that was the first one.
The Clendathune. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the first alien I saw. Or then the next one was like Mars Attacks with a brain weird.
Yeah. I love Mars Attacks. I love it.
So like seeing that kind of stuff, and then watching how aliens, the creativity of people making these movies has changed and evolved and stuff like that too. It's just really interesting.
I mean, think about it. If a director comes to you and said, "I want this," I would have no clue. But I think they did such a wonderful job. And even the opening scene, they do a great job about building tenseness, right? It's uncomfortable. You're nervous because the characters are nervous, because they're everyday people who are in their 40s who aren't athletically bound. They're not combat trained. They're just people. You know what I mean? And they're just thrown into this thing. And the opening scene is cool. We haven't talked about that, when they're zapping in and they do a bad drop, and so people are being dropped off the side of buildings and
oh my god, that scared the shit out of me too.
I know,
falling through the air,
good.
And all of a sudden like I don't even know. I don't remember how the number of people that went there, and almost all of a sudden the only people that survived were the ones that fell into the pool.
Yeah,
I'm like, well, there you go. 95% of the troops have died. Wow, that's one way to set up a fight in the very beginning. All of a sudden, you went in there with, like, let's say 300, and you only came out with, like, maybe 50,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy.
What was your favorite part of the movie? Should we wait on that one because we could talk?
No, it's fine. I love that you touched on. I want to back you up on this. The tension building before you see the aliens. They never show them. I like the fact that they never show them because they psychologically they didn't want to freak people out. Because if you're dropping people in that don't have any combat experience to fight them, you're instantly going to go just based off their fight or flight response on what they're going to do to survive. And I thought that was very creatively done and very smart writing with that. And then
they
the tension.
Said that.
Yeah.
Do you remember they say that to one of the characters?
Yeah.
Why do you have a picture? They said no because you'll be too scared if you see this picture.
Yeah.
That was fucking awesome.
Yep. Like the writing I said was very creatively done, and I was 100% behind what they were doing with that, and I really liked the fact that they wrote it that way. And then also as an audience, you were going in without seeing them either. You know? So you were with the characters. You were able to walk alongside them throughout the thing. You see claws. You see you see outlines. You see the aliens running in smoke and stuff like that too. And they didn't do that overtly, where I was turned off. I'm like, okay, come on, just show me already. They built the tension where I was still interested, and all of a sudden when they showed up, you're like, holy shit, you're gonna need a bigger gun. Run.
Yeah. No, it's true. And I like that you said that too, because I actually forgot about it until you just mentioned it. One of the characters says, "Why can't we see a picture?" And when they say, "If you see a picture, you won't want to fight," the fact that we get that line of dialogue before we've even seen a creature, we're in the same shoes as that actor and that character. So it just really, to your point, ratchets it up the tension. So it just makes it super nerve-wracking when you first see one.
That's a problem. That's a problem I have with most horror movies, is that fact that it just jumps into horror. You got to add a little bit of thriller. You have to keep me on the edge of my seat before you just show me. You know, because if you show me, then you lose the element of surprise as an audience, or an audience seeing something like a video or a movie or something like that. So if you drag it out just a little bit, you build that tension. It's going to be a better payoff, and that's why I think most horror movies don't really resonate very well with me, because I lose that. I'm like, okay, now it's just like it's all oh my god, I have to close my eyes, I can't you know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think the sci-fi horror genre does a really good job of kind of like stretching it out for as long as they can, because they have to build the world, they have to give you some exposition in a creative way, and then you're going to get your creature or your alien. So sci-fi horror has a lot going against it because it's such a narrow target, but when it's done right, it's fucking great. Like it becomes an architect for things people to copy, and there was some of that too. We're going to get to the end of it when we talk about that, because this thing borrowed from a lot of really good sci-fi movies, and it did them well. Like it wasn't a straight up rip-off. It wasn't that at all.
I agree with you 100%. When you texted me that, I was like, oh, we have to talk about that, because how many times did they do something where you're like, oh, it's going this way, and all of a sudden they flipped the script and they did it another way.
Yeah.
You know, where you think, like, half of me thought that he was trying to take his daughter back with him, like holding on to her, kind of, because they go back with whatever they're holding, right? So I think he was trying to save his daughter's life and take it back with him, and it didn't end up happening that way. Or the biggest one, J.K. Simmons gonna freaking sacrifice himself for his son. He's doing his whole like, I'm sorry, I failed you, that kind of thing, and it didn't happen that way either with that scene either. It changes again. I was like, oh shit. Or the fact when he stuck the queen at the end. Sorry, I'm gonna give the ending here, guys, but stuck the queen with the toxin. And then the queen, you're like, oh, they won. Wow, that was pretty quick. Okay, well, whatever. You know, I was expecting something. And then the queen just rips its arm off. You're like, oh shit! Oh shit! That didn't work. Do you have a backup? What's plan CBD?
I remember turning to Jessica when that happened, and I said that was, as this fight's going on, and I said that's brilliant, because, you know, you're right. For all intents and purposes, that was the climax of the movie, but it wasn't. And everybody thought that it was, and in the way the misdirect and the redirect on how they did it was fucking great. So, no, that exact scene to me, I literally stopped as it's going on and told Jessica that was brilliant. They did a great job on that. Not
only that, the queen had two moments like that too. I thought the climax was when they caught the queen. I'm like, okay. Oh, yeah. I'm like, you kill the queen, everybody else dies. This is kind of like a Phantom Menace kind of thing where you destroy the droid ship and everybody else dies. Nope.
Right.
Nope, not at all. Not at all. And you think like that, I'm like, you save the queen, you kill the queen, they're figuring out how to kill the queen. And then they have this World War Z moment where they're in a military base in the middle of the ocean, and you see all the white spikes swimming at them. I'm like, oh shit, this is crazy. And then another moment was when they find the ship in Antarctica or is it Russia or something like that, where it crash landed, and you see the big one, and Chris sticks it, and you're like, oh wow, they won, and you realize that wasn't the Queen, and that these aliens aren't actually the aliens. These aliens that they're fighting, the White Spikes, are actually they're actually weapons.
They're weapons, yeah.
They're weapons. They're not the alien themselves. They could even open this up to another one with Grandfather Paradox kind of thing, where it's like, where are the aliens that were flying the ship? Where'd they die? I didn't see any bodies. Did you see bodies?
Yeah, they're hanging. That's how they know. So when they find the ship's upside down, and that's when they see that it said it was a crash site. They didn't mean to land here because the pilots, for lack of a better word, are upside down, hanging. But yeah, those were solid points. Yeah, it was a subtle line of dialogue, but it was in between all of those things are happening, and it wasn't the Queen. It was a female. That was the other thing. So to add to your point about possibly having a sequel, is they don't say it's a queen. They say it's a female. The females. So, but again, how many females are there? That was one colony. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they wanted to go ahead and get they wanted to capture the female to figure out their physiological breakdown and why some toxins that they were using was only affecting the males and not the females. But they needed to capture a female, run tests, and then do this DNA sequencing to find out the toxin, right?
Right.
So they do that. They did that really well, and I loved that World War Z scene you're talking about, where all of the White Spikes are going through the water. They're hitting the minefield. They've got the drones with the 50 cals kind of covering everything. It was so good. Like, there were so many set pieces, and again, Yvonne does a great job. There's a moment right before this, after they capture the female, and right before the World War Z part you're talking about, where she tells him why. Because going back, when you deal with time travel, people want to know how did I die, or what happened, right? And Chris Pratt asks that, how did I die? Because he knows before he even leaves to the future that he dies in 7 years. Like, they tell him that in MEPS. Mm-hmm. So when he finds out that she's his daughter, and I thought they did a great job, because she's honest with them, but she's also like, hey, I know this doesn't matter, because no matter what, this future we lose. Mm-hmm. Like, there is no split timeline like you mentioned. She's that version of his daughter is going to die, and she knows it. Which is kind of why, jumping forward to the end, when she fell, like, there's no way she could have gone back, because that would have created a paradox.
Right.
Like, she had to die there.
But I thought that was what the one rule that they're going to break, because usually science fiction, they break their own rules sometimes. I thought they were going to break that and bring her back, and it doesn't happen. But there's that beautiful shot where all the White Spikes and the female and her and Chris Pratt gets zapped out. That was such an emotional scene. And then you see the PTSD from his friend that was always witty and smart, and he sees him, you're alive, and he's just shaking. He can't even speak. They did the emotions in this movie very, very well, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I'm probably going to watch this movie again, to be completely honest. I liked it that much. Not only that, there was the one guy that we talked about earlier that had the claw on the necklace and stuff like that too. They do the process of finding out how it was, because they inspect the claw to see where it came from, or the dust on it and stuff like that too, where they clawed out from and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
That was really done well. But when he detonates the bomb on the ship, and he's
so you're jumping. So you're jumping ahead. Go back and tell us what that you're talking about, because people don't know what
I'm talking about.
Is in the ship.
I'm talking about. Okay, so they go and find the ship in Russia. I think it's Russia, or Germany, or something like that, where the ice is, and they find the ship. And he sees the aliens, and this guy knew he was going to die in, I think, what he said, like 7 days or so. From cancer.
It was 3 years. I think it was 3 years from cancer, or maybe it was 3 months. Whatever. But yeah, he was
something
dying.
very true. But he always talked about it. He's like, I'm going to go out my way. I'm going to keep doing this, because I'm volunteering, because I know I'm going to die, but I want to do as much as I possibly can. And at the very end, he was probably one of my favorite characters, because he sees the aliens. They're all getting overrun, and he screams out, I'm going to go out my way. I love it when people do that. They do it a lot of it in a lot of alien movies too. Like in Independence Day, speaking of 4th of July, hello boys, I'm back. That kind of like sacrificial stuff happens a lot of times in alien movies. Think about it. Prometheus, Idris Elba flies the ship into the Prometheus ship to take him out, even though he might die. So that kind of sacrifice I enjoy seeing when it's done really well.
Yeah. When
it's not selfish.
Yeah. that was one of the problems I had with it. I felt like
Really?
there were some of the lines in there that they just could have left unwritten. Like there's a couple of like hero lines that Chris Pratt is saying like I'm gonna save my daughter no matter what. It's like, do we know that? We don't need you to say it. Like to
Yeah, I
me it
agree.
cheapens that. To me it cheapens the writing. That dude saying what he said at the end, I like that character a lot too. I think that the fact that he, you peel the layer, and even going back to the beginning when they first drop, Chris Pratt's trying to herd these newbies who've never been in combat, trying to teach them to survive, and that character tells him, "You're just wasting your time." So like they're very grizzled, and so for that, he didn't need to say that to me. I mean, it was already implied multiple times that he knew he wanted to go out on his terms, and so for me, it's just like, well, we know that. It's
Hey,
like,
chat.
you don't need to.
If you saw the movie, please tell us what your favorite part of the movie was.
Yeah,
We're talking about it as well too. I think I can understand what you're saying, Chris, especially with some of the cheaper lines as well too. I mean, there are flaws in the movie. No movie's perfect. Like for example, the snowmobiles would not have been able to carry the amount of explosive needed to destroy that ship under ice.
Right.
That's one.
Right.
Just like, but don't nitpick movies just because of that. If they do something horribly out of character for the film or the tone and stuff like that too, sure, yeah, badger that. But the small stuff, I mean, look, pros and cons, you have to look at it, and that's why we review these movies too, because we enjoy them, and sometimes sometimes they're a letdown. This one for me, I would give it about an 8 out of 10 because of just how well the movie was done. It surprised me. I went in thinking this was going to be fun. It was fun, but did it do anything spectacular? Did it do anything groundbreaking? I wouldn't think so. I think it was fun for what it was, and that's one of the things I look at in movies, honestly.
It definitely was. And then, I mean, that's a great thing, especially now. I mean, you can watch this at home on Independence Day for free for the most part because everybody has Amazon Prime nowadays. Like, it definitely did that. And I think that you're right. And you don't want to nitpick a sci-fi action horror movie that's premise is 30 years from now the human race is getting wiped out, so we're drafting people 40 years and older to try and resupply the lines. If that's a log line, people are going to be like, oh, okay, so but the fact that it takes itself so seriously, to me, is really a tribute to the writing, the storytelling, and as a whole. So when you have lines like the ones I'm referring to, they stick out like a sore thumb because of how well the story is, everything else. Like the snowmobiles, that didn't bother me. And the fact that Chris Pratt, rides a snowmobile and clips the female alien that's chasing that didn't bother me. Like there were some things in here that were kind of Fast and Furious 4-ish. You know what I mean? Not 9, but definitely 4. But that didn't bother me.
Right.
All in all, it was I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I will definitely be watching it again, maybe even today. Chris Pratt, to me, this wasn't his best acting, but they didn't ask him to do a lot. The people around him really sold his performance. Like when Betty with his wife, really just kind of feeling that emotion about leaving, and then his dad. And then you talk about a misdirect when he goes to see his dad to take off his bracelet, for lack of a better word, his tracker. He gets so mad at his dad, he's like, "Fuck it, whatever. Never mind. I don't want your help," type of thing. Yeah. So that moment is a really strong relationship moment. So, and then when we get to the future, Yvonne is just so good with what she says, and one of the things that didn't sit well with me, or at least one of the biggest things in the story, was the fact when she tells her dad in the future that he leaves them, that he divorces them, that he goes away, that he was never happy with his life. And you just don't get that from what we know about Chris Pratt's character, right? Because, we know he doesn't get the job that he really wants. We know that he's a high school teacher, and within the first 20 minutes, he's drafted. So we never really get the fact that he's kind of unhappy with his family. In fact, it's quite the opposite. He seems to really love his wife. His wife loves him. He really cares for his daughter. His daughter cares for him. So to me, that was the only part in the writing that's like, well, I don't know.
I can feel where you're coming from with that. I do. I feel almost I'm able to empathize with that character development just a little bit more because he feels like he didn't live up to his potential, and I feel like most of us, especially me, feel like that a lot of the times. Is that we want to do something good with our lives. We want to do something that's going to give us, a bit of self-worth and stuff like that too. And that scene where he's trying to get the job and stuff like that as well. I feel that. I can feel that. I'm like, okay, I've been turned down from a lot of stuff, acting and non-acting as well too. Where do I fit in this world? Where am I supposed to be? Where can I be all that I can be and do it well, that I can be proud of what I've done and say I'm doing something worth it. So that part makes sense to me, you know. And I love the fact that was like the very beginning undertone for his character, and the fact that he didn't let that get to his head when he's like, oh, I can do this now. This is something that I can do, you know. It's like, no, he was just going through the actions of doing something really well. And at the very end of the movie, he's not like he's given a medal for it. He wasn't given any kind of like representation. He wasn't given like to meet the president or anything like that too. But he did something worthwhile that saved the world practically. Him and his future daughter. You know, Rachel makes a good point. She like what you were saying. She liked the science behind that there was a difference between the males and the females, the enzyme breakdown, like you said. Yeah. She loves the science and kind of stuff like that. So if they develop it and go into it. What else did she say? I feel like they took the main phobias of the population and created an alien with them, which was cool. I have to admit, I was literally waiting for something to be a joke because the cast was very comedian-packed. So I was expected for that to be fake. I do want to see it again as well since I left the room a few times. Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely worth watching at least twice. I mean, you know, it was gonna be a summer blockbuster that just happened to end up on Amazon because of COVID. So, you know, Chris Pratt's an A-list superstar. You know, so yeah, and that's a solid call out on the movie. Yeah. I think that, and you know, what's great to me is how you mentioned it, but we didn't really talk about it. Is how they figure out. So they make the enzyme. They transport Chris Pratt's character back to the past while his daughter dies, and so they have to figure out how to create this serum now, right? So they have to beat it. And so that set of problem solving was really cool. What they did, they figured out, you know, that it was from he linked up with his little compadre, the dude that you're talking about, the one that had cancer that was dying, and he took his token because I think the dude had ripped out one of the White Claw's claws, and they, you know, it was great. They, you know, his other guy Sam, who you know, you mentioned it from the PTSD. He said he hid the whole time. All he did was hide for 7 days, and he made it back. And you could see he was ashamed of that. I mean, in the past or in the current, he, you know, I think it's a geology foundation, and so they find out where it's from and whatnot. And yeah, I think that was really cool. It was this crashed spaceship, which really was straight from the thing. I mean, it was lifted straight from the fucking thing.
Right.
The crashed alien ship, and then, you know, they go into it, and then it's lifted straight from Prometheus because like you guys just watched it, so you know the black goo, that was a weapon that was never meant to be anything else but a weapon.
Right.
So, and you saw Covenant, and you see how that was used. So, you know, it's a biological weapon that destabilizes a planet, and that's exactly what it was. And we don't get that until the very end. So, and I thought it was great the way they unveiled that. You know, the way, you know, they could have done it exposition style and you just get a ton of speaking, but it was such a clever ride. And you gave it 8 out of 10. I would give it 8 out of 10 as well.
Yeah.
I would say it's definitely worth a watch. It's free. You know what I mean? It's free, and it's basically a tentpole movie that it wasn't going to get 200 million. So good on them for taking the 200 million and, you know, seeing what happens, because it was a good flick. I mean, you know, fuck IndieWire, which shit all over it. Fuck them, and fuck IGN. They gave it a 3. God, these people, like, it's like Chris Pratt fucked their girlfriends or something. Like, the movie is better than a 3. Like, I don't understand it. Like, you know, so yeah, it was awesome, man. I'm so glad that we're talking about it.
I'm glad you watched it. I'm glad you gave it a shot, man. Yeah, because you were like, I haven't seen it. I don't know. I'm like, no, you try give it a shot. I'm halfway through it. I'm actually really liking it. So
yeah,
that was good. And
definitely said that.
I mean, think about what our next topic is next week, man. We're starting a new podcast, guys. It's going to be called Tripod, and we're going to be delving into conspiracy stuff out there that's unknown, mysteries and stuff like that too. And David Harris, Chris Carter, and I, Nate Mill, are going to be doing that, and it's going to be a lot of fun to do that too. And you know, aliens have now been said that they are real. Our own government has said it's real. So the fact that it really hasn't blown up the internet off of just saying that is mind-boggling to me. And here's a little piece of information, Chris. Did you know this? Do you know what the first audio message that broke through our atmosphere was?
No.
Okay, this is going to freak you out. It says, if aliens are real, and if they ever come here, the way that time works in space and stuff like that too, right? The first audio message that they would have heard from Earth, it's going to freak you out, would have been Adolf Hitler during the Olympics in Germany.
Why would they have heard that first?
Because that was the first audio message that had the actual power and the actual process to actually break through our atmosphere. So it'd be funny if aliens finally touch down and want to talk to us and ask, hey, where's Adolf?
Long gone. Fuck that guy.
I know, right? But I thought that was like dark, and I'm also like, what the fuck? Are you kidding me? I looked into it.
Yeah.
Like, yep, it's true.
There's a bunch of scientific formulas saying that there's one very famous one. I wish I could remember it now. I had it memorized when I was in college, and because the way it works is like it's funny how many people say that if there were aliens out there, we would know it. We would have heard from them already. And to me, it just doesn't. I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to talking about aliens. I'm looking forward to talking about the Dyatlov incident, the Devil's Triangle, the Dragon's Triangle, which is on the same ley line.
The Roswell incident.
Yeah, but Roswell's. It's hard to hide stuff now, right? But not just aliens. Like is Sasquatch and Yeti a mutation? Like is that something that didn't evolve? Things
right.
like that.
I'm really looking forward to it in a podcast, man. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm not have a lot to bring to the table, so I'm gonna be. David and you are a little bit more knowledgeable probably in this fact. I know some things, but I'm really more excited to hear what you guys have to say about it and teach me and help me learn about these kind of things that are kind of underneath the news that nobody really talks about unless you like have those friends that are actually really interested in this stuff. And that's why I have you guys. So it's gonna be a lot of fun to talk about that stuff,
I think so too.
I mean, there's so many theories about that. There's even a theory that's on, like, I think that's the number one theory on Reddit, which is like talking about why we're seeing saucers so much now or UFOs is the fact that most people believe that they are future humans checking in on us to see what went wrong and how to fix a current future incident like the Tomorrow War. That's that they say that with everything that's going on in the world and the climate and stuff like that too, is that's why we're seeing it. It's future humans looking or coming back and trying to stay out of having a paradox event happen, and they're like looking at the Earth from.
Well, do you know the story of? Do you know some of the moon stuff? Like
I know some.
Like so, like how it's phase locked, right? So the moon, the dark side of the moon is always the dark side of the moon towards the Earth, right? And people are on the dark side. And again, this is why Apollo. I wish I knew this. I forget what Apollo mission was the last mission. I guess there was some
18?
type of agreement. I don't know if it was 18. I don't even want to speculate because I would be like, yeah, it's that. It could be Apollo 100.
I have no idea. We need David for this kind of stuff.
So yeah. So there was a group called Majestic 12, and there were 12 individuals. I think it was from the Kennedy, maybe it was prior to Kennedy.
Okay.
That had this plan, and they had known that there was a base on the moon, and the aliens had told humans don't come back here because this is not. You don't need. You imagine what would happen, right? So there have also been incidents that things have hit the moon and it's hollow. It reverberates. It shouldn't be.
It's hollow. I've never heard of
so
that.
look up I think it's not called a hollow moon. It's not that. But if you Google moon sound that like reverberates, there's a couple of stories that kind of talk about that, where the moon is actually hollow and you can hear it from one end to the other end. It's not like a solid piece of rock.
That's crazy.
Speaking of that, do you know how the leading story and how people think that the moon was created? Do you know this?
No.
So way back, I don't even know how far back, there was an asteroid that hit Earth, and it ripped off part of Earth, and that is the moon. That's the leading theory of why the moon is there.
That's crazy. Because I mean, like what? Like only 5% of the oceans have been discovered or looked at. Maybe there's a piece of it out there. That's crazy. I've never heard that one.
But dude, this is the standard on why people think the moon is created. So it's like, well, if that's true, then there would be segments of Earth on the moon, right? You'd have to dig for it, and so far that's not been true. It's been the opposite of true. They find helium-3, which would be an amazing energy source, but they can't mine it because you can't mine shit on the moon because according to Majestic 12 and some governments it's an alien base. But anyway, again, I'm hype about it. I know a fair amount about it. I can't wait to talk about by Catalina Island out where I live. There's an underwater alien base. People say there was actually an event in the, I want to say 50s. that a UFO saucer flew over Los Angeles, and you can look this up. That the military shot at it like all night because they didn't know what it was.
Oh wow.
And and they said it just disappeared back into the ocean.
Well, think about it. Like we lived in Tucson together. Remember the Phoenix Lights? I remember being alive and seeing that, and stuff like that. And all of a sudden they disappeared once they reached like the top of Tucson, northern Tucson area, and all of a sudden they were gone. I mean, it's crazy the stuff that you can see and that's out there, man. And like for example, like World War II, there was like a German scientist, like Schrödinger or something like that went to Antarctica to study those pyramids that were down there, because there are pyramids in Antarctica, and they believe the fact that he unearthed some kind of alien equipment or alien technology, and that's where most of the UFOs started coming around and being seen, because some of that was released from that.
So it's funny. There's an operation called Operation High Jump.
Okay,
And
I remember
there
that.
are
I've heard that.
Yeah, there are two accounts of it, and one of them was that the Nazis had gone to Antarctica and they had created these giant structures where if they had to retreat to, they could go to. But it was also determined that they were speaking to aliens. And a very famous, not an astronomer, he's not a rocket scientist, but actually he is, Werner von Braun. He's the father of modern like NASA. In fact, he was a German that the Americans collected after World War II and said, you can work for us or you can die. And so he made Saturn rockets.
Great negotiation.
Yeah, right. And he admitted, he said, we had help. The Germans had help from, they're alluding to some type of aliens. But again, this is something that I find I'm very passionate about, and I'll have lots of links. And
I can't wait.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to
fun.
talk to me, you, and David about this stuff, and just kind of prattle on about what's out there.
Tripod.
The tripod.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll be streaming it here on Twitch. It'll be on YouTube. Check out this ReelChat on YouTube as well too. It'll be up on Tuesday. And Chris, this has been a great day, man. See you tomorrow, War guys. Give it a shot. It's a great movie. Don't ignore the critics. Just watch Just watch ReelChat. Watch our reviews. We enjoy movies. We enjoy TV. We enjoy talking about this kind of stuff. So thank you so much for tuning in with us today. And Chris, it's been fun, my man. I hope you stay safe out there in LA. Enjoy your Independence Day. Happy birthday, America. This is ReelChat. Myself, Nate Mill, and
Chris Carter.
Signing off, guys. Thanks for joining us here on ReelChat. We'll catch you later. Respect yourselves. Respect each other.
We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams.